Hi, everybody in podcast land and also on YouTube. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And this is the Carpool Critics podcast, where today we're talking about, I like to say it to my friends who don't like Marvel as Thor 3, because it makes it sound so stupid and trivial. Yeah. But no, it's Thor Ragnarok. It's directed by Taika Waititi, and it's undoubtedly the sickest Thor movie.
And here's your spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
In case you haven't seen it. You really should have seen it by now, but...
Spoiler alert.
What's that?
New Zealand accent.
He's trying.
Hey, guys. Spoiler alert.
There you go. Yeah,
Something like that?
Yeah.
Hey, David, why don't you tell us what you think of this movie? On a scale out of 10, give us a numerical appraisal.
All right. Characters in Ragnarok spend most of the movie repeating its title, yet still have enough time for big laughs, smart MCU crossovers, and epic fights that not only make this easily the best Thor movie, but also the best Hulk film too.
Oh, that's true.
8 out of 10.
No, nice.
Wow. I agree with that. Although, maybe a twist. Riley, what do you think?
Unless you're the god of not having a good time, this movie has basically everything you could want, and the way 2020 is going, it's on the fast track to becoming the best film of the year. Because there's no movies that came out this year. 8.75 out of 10. I love this movie.
Yeah, I heard there's also...
I loved it so much that I added an extra 0.25, which I don't usually do. Yep.
Wow, you guys.
I heard there's lots of Academy rumblings about this movie. There's a whole campaign.
For 2020.
Yeah.
I don't have as much prepared as you guys. If Asgardians can be black, why can't hobbits? 6.8.
What? Is there a black hobbit somewhere?
No, there's not.
No, there's a
That's
whole
the
You're just
problem.
complaining about it.
You know,
Yeah.
the only
You're saying
black
there should have
people in
been.
Lord of the Rings are bad guys.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Michaela did say, she's like, there's a lot of white people in this movie. There's a few token other cultures.
in Thor?
In J.R.R. Tolkien's defense, it was, he wrote it a long time ago, and it was supposed to be kind of like based on the historical mythology of the British Isles.
Okay, you can defend Lord of the Rings
No,
after...
I'm saying, I think if they went and made Lord of the Rings today, there would be more diversity.
Sure. It's weird though. They had the Hobbit. I haven't seen the Hobbit, but did they get any diversity in there?
I don't know. I watched
no.
the first Hobbit and I tried to forget it.
I thought that those arguments were pretty defensible. The whole Middle Earth thing. You know, why would they have pigment? It's really British up there.
Yeah.
But now after seeing what they'd done with Asgard, which is like this is supposed to be Nordic AF, the whitest white people.
Right. But they're also aliens.
But it totally works. So
whatever goes.
Why not? But the Valkyrie character, what's her name again?
Tessa Thompson.
What's the character's name?
Well, her name in the movie is Valkyrie, but I think her real name is Brunhilde.
Oh, wow.
But we'll get into
That's
that.
a Wagner
On IMDb, it's just
reference.
Valkyrie.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but she's got like straight hair and light skin. Anyway, she's cool anyway. So how about this? 6.8 out of 10 because...
6.8?
Yeah.
What's your friggin' problem?
There's lots to like here, but there's also just like it's kind of cheesy. And I didn't think the fights were that cool.
It depends on the fights. There's some that are pretty weak.
We will get all into it right after this synopsis from Riley.
Oh, okay. After defeating the fire, this is a bit of a longer synopsis because a lot happens in this movie. After defeating the fire demon Surtur, Thor returns to Asgard to find Loki ruling in Odin's place, having banished him to Earth so he can put on silly plays with Matt Damon. Thor forcefully brings Loki there, but when they find Odin, he promptly dies, ending the magic that kept his firstborn, Hela, the goddess of death, imprisoned. Hela returns to Asgard, flinging Loki and Thor out into space, and murders Asgard's army, raising her own undead soldiers. Meanwhile, Thor goes through a wormhole and lands on Sakaar, where he is captured by Valkyrie, a former elite Asgardian warrior trying to drink away the past. She hands him over to Sakaar's Grandmaster, who forces Thor to fight. She hands him over to Sakaar's Grandmaster, who forces Thor to fight in She hands him over to Sakaar's Grandmaster, who forces Thor to fight in gladiatorial games against the planet's champion, the Hulk. The two powerhouses quickly reconcile and ask Valkyrie to help them escape, but she refuses until Loki, who also landed on Sakaar, forces her to relive her traumatic defeat at Hela's hand. Meanwhile, Hela has been searching for the Bifrost sword, which she needs to resume her universal conquest, but it's been hidden away by Heimdall, along with the Asgardian survivors. When Valkyrie, Thor, and the de-Hulkified Bruce Banner return to Asgard in the Grandmaster's stolen ship, they fight Hela and her undead army, and Loki even shows up with a giant ship to evacuate the Asgardians. But our heroes eventually realize Hela draws her power from Asgard itself. So Loki awakens Surtur from the vault, causing Ragnarok and destroying Hela along with Asgard, as Thor and the now homeless Asgardians watch from space. But for how long?
15 minutes.
It's a bittersweet ending. Yeah, that happens right away.
It's the next scene in the MCU is they all get killed.
We're talking about the mid-credits scene.
Oh, I messed up and I didn't watch the mid or end credits scenes.
Oh, geez.
What happens?
So
Thanos finds them.
I know.
we
I
already
know
gave
what
a spoiler alert.
Yeah, I know what happens at the beginning of Infinity War.
Yeah.
But so what happens in those scenes?
You basically see Thanos' ship come up on the Asgardian ship. And it's like, oh no, it's going to happen.
And is that it? Is that there's only one?
That happens at the end of kind of like a reconciliatory scene between Thor and Loki, where Loki's like, hey, maybe I'm good now.
Oh, okay. And there's only one after, like credit scene.
No, then there's another one. The very end credit scene is the Grandmaster coming out of like a crashed ship on Sakaar or whatever, and the revolution happened. So all the people there are like, hey, we're going to get you. And he's like trying to stop them from killing him.
Oh, that's unneeded.
It really is. But it's kind of like, hey, remember, one last little Jeff Goldblum joke.
And I love every single one.
I love Jeff Goldblum in this movie.
He's
awesome.
so good. He's so
perfect.
well utilized.
I'm so glad they got him.
So, okay, do you guys know that he is an elder of the universe? And that means that he's the last of his race. And so in the Marvel universe, if you're the last of your race, you're made eternal.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
He is eternal. Yeah. He's the master of
Essentially.
humans.
Yeah.
Because makes that joke. He's like, on any other planet, I'd be over 1 million years old. And on Sakaar,
Million.
I love that. He just leaves it open-ended. Like you're expecting him to be like, I can live forever, whatever. But then just no one says anything for like 3 seconds.
On Sakaar, I'm 49, 52.
I feel like they didn't make him into... Was he supposed to be an elder or whatever? Or is he just like a guy in this movie?
I think they weren't investing into kind of developing that scale in Marvel, but because of the mention of him being millions of years old, I think that's kind of
But the setup that he gives there makes it seem like it's because of the proximity of Sakaar to a black hole or some kind of time dilation, because he says on any other planet.
Yeah.
Where the lore that you're explaining here seems like anywhere in the universe he's going to be.
I'm just basing that off the Grandmaster in the comics. He's like he looks different. He's like a blue dude, but he's an elder of the universe.
I think they didn't spend too much time thinking about how the mechanics of Sakaar actually work, or like how the mechanics of Grandmaster actually work. They're just like, it's a weird, crazy place. Nothing makes sense here. Like, when Thor runs around the circle and they're just like, it's a freaky circle. The only thing that, what does he say? The only thing that makes sense is that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I think this movie has a really good understanding of what works in comics and then how to translate that to the screen. Like, I think like some of like the fights or like the way the characters are, but especially in like the way that it uses small bits of Marvel knowledge here and there to make it all feel more grounded in the MCU while still having its own identity.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
Like the Doctor Strange stuff is so good, and I want to talk about that. But first, let's talk about our sponsor.
Oh, you're segueing for me? Wow. Carpool Critics is supported by Vessi Footwear, famous for making shoes that are light, comfortable, and most importantly, waterproof. And guess what? It's raining all day the next 2 days here. They're made from dual climate knit material, and they're 100% vegan, which is completely badass. F the haters. They've also just announced their new The Weekend shoe, which some of us are wearing right now. Be classy, be Starboy. So head to Vessi.com/carpoolcritics to reserve your own, or check out their existing lineup and get $40 off using our code, which is just going Vessi.com/carpoolcritics. I have a pair of those. They're sweet, very minimal, and 100% pretty cool.
Love them.
We're also brought to you by Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. Free speech! You can connect up to 5 devices at once, and it includes, is it 5 devices? It might even be 10 devices now. I've seen conflicting copy around here. Lots of devices. It also includes an internet kill switch.
It's Hulk.
Oh, okay. If your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even as a dang Chrome extension, so check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolpia.
Carpool PIA.
Too many cooks.
What were you going to talk about?
So I think that this movie has a really good understanding of what makes the other characters in the MCU work. And like Doctor Strange in particular, his movie's fine, but his character never really stuck with me. But in this one, I love the way that they just use him so lightly. And apparently that was a last minute addition. They still had the sets built, and they're like, let's write a scene with the Doctor Strange sets and make that work.
Question, did this movie come out before Doctor Strange movie?
Yes. No, after. This is the final movie before Infinity War.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I knew that. Okay, so we've already seen Doctor Strange. We know he is completely. And it is kind of cool. They worked him in. It's not too contrived. It's kind of like, wait, why are we talking to Doctor Strange? Why does he know where Odin is? Oh, because it's his job to know that Odin is on Earth.
Like
Any powerful being on Earth, he'll know about.
There's some good jokes in there. Like, I love when he's like, oh, he wants some tea, and he's like, I don't drink tea, and beer appears in his hand, but then he keeps like transporting him. The beer keeps spilling. He's like knocking over books and stuff.
That was a great bit.
I don't know. That's actually one of those scenes where I was like, oh God, this.
Oh really?
Yeah, like he kept being like, oh, I'm in a different place. I didn't find that funny. It didn't land for me, and I was like, this is lame.
So like. I get what you're saying about the comic book-ness of this movie. I think this is one of the first, well, not the first one, but this is definitely one of those movies, one of the Marvel movies where you watch it and you're like, Marvel has come into their own.
Totally.
This is literally like a comic book come to the screen directly. They don't spend too much time explaining kind of like the mechanics of things. They're just kind of like, these things are what they are, and we're going to play with these fun toys in the sandbox and make some crazy stuff happen. The Doctor Strange bit, I wrote down that it was kind of, it kind of like messes with the pacing a bit for me. Like, it's definitely fun.
Yep.
It's definitely kind of like, that's a very comic booky element where you're just like, hey, we're just going to bring in this side character from a different franchise. And, but I did feel like it was a little bit shoehorned in. At the same time, though, I did think it was very funny. I thought the writing in that scene was great. Like, he's like, you could have sent an email and have you heard of a text message? And he's like, do you have a phone?
Yeah.
What about email? And he's like, do you have a computer? He's like, no.
What do I need that for?
What do I need that for?
I'll admit that I did laugh out loud when Loki finally falls out of the park. I've been falling for 30 minutes. That was great.
Yeah.
But it is actually kind of interesting that Doctor Strange just totally slaps Loki around, because what does that say about the relative power levels there, where Loki has been like a main villain in Thor 2. Like, are we supposed to, like, should he be so wimpy compared to Doctor Strange? I mean, granted, he's not a main villain in this movie. He's kind of just there to stir the pot and inject mischief.
I think that's part of the comic bookness of it, where the crossovers in comic books exist to sell, to introduce you to more characters, but they also serve to make those characters seem super badass, because they can kind of exist outside of their power level for a second and just be like their ultimate power, because like they're not really consequential to the higher stakes of the movie, but they can just be like so powerful, so snappy, and just be in control for that like 5 minutes that they're there.
Well,
and then you're like, wow, Doctor Strange is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, even just from like a, lore character power level perspective, I think Doctor Strange could beat up Loki. Like Loki's strength has never been his physical prowess or his like, that level. It's been his intellect and his like ability to kind of get ahead of things and like manipulate things and set up ridiculous scenarios that work to his benefit. I think that in a straight up fight, Doctor Strange would probably wreck him.
Yeah, but doesn't he also make portals and stuff like that?
Loki?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
His main power is like illusion.
Yeah.
I think he can like disguise things, and I guess he can pull knives out of nowhere. But I think I also loved that that power dynamic, that the kind of like shifting things around, where like Doctor Strange is like treating Loki like he's a plaything or whatever, because Loki has been this. He was the main villain of, what movie was it? The first Avengers. Yeah. And he's been like kind of like a bad guy throughout the series. And this is where we really get to see him and Thor kind of go on this little mini quest, little adventure. And I really appreciated that. It almost made me want to see like a little Thor and Loki mini series, like, bros on adventures, One's kind of a bad guy, but maybe he's still good a little bit,
I mean, we're getting a Loki TV series. So.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't know if Thor will be in it or not. Yeah,
he's got to be in a bit.
Yeah.
I bet he'll be in like the first episode to get people on board.
Probably.
That's true.
I think like the way the movie uses like the Hulk as well is the best the MCU's ever used the Hulk. Because in the first Avengers, he's used really well as a setup and payoff, where you're like, oh gosh, we can't have him. He's a bomb ready to go off, and when he goes off, it's the wrong time.
Yeah.
They're in on that ship, and he just destroys the ship, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then the second time, he's like, my secret is I'm always angry, and then he just like punches the thing, and you're like, yeah, Hulk, yeah. But in this, they actually develop the character, and they do this thing, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but does Hulk age developmentally in real time? Because so in this movie,
his mental age,
because he's kind of like a toddler in this one, but he's a lot more reasonable than he's ever been.
Yeah.
But it's because he's been the Hulk for 2 years. So is he developmentally aging at the same rate as a human as the Hulk?
I don't know if it's the same rate, but like he definitely grows, and I think that this movie is such a cool opportunity to see that. It was really, I completely agree with you. It was really cool to see some actual characterization from the Hulk instead of just being this one-note Hulk smash thing.
I don't know if it's intelligence or mental age, though. I think it is more just to do with how angry he is, because normally he's so angry that he's becoming the Hulk, and he's just smashing, and then he deflates. But in this, he's been the Hulk for 2 years. He's not at 11 throughout the whole 2 years, and when he's not at 11, he can be like chilling in his own little apartment and have limited word conversations.
That could be it too, but I think that the Hulk remaining the Hulk when he's not in a battle situation probably plays in as well, if we're talking about the science of this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, but you're saying that
like he's not in a battle situation, so he's not that angry, so therefore he's more
sure, no,
articulate.
absolutely. I think when he has like an opportunity to kind of like chill, then maybe he like starts kind of becoming more of an actual person instead of just a...
Or it's just we haven't seen it.
Yeah, and I think I like the part where Thor is like, are you there? Like he kind of looks over and there's a hot tub shrouded in darkness and you don't really see the Hulk, and he's like, Hulk, are you there? And Hulk's like, I'm always there or something.
Yeah.
I forget if that's not the actual line, but
yeah.
But he says he somehow indicates that it's not like Bruce Banner is Bruce Banner, and sometimes he just like turns into the Hulk, and Hulk and Bruce Banner are the same person. Yep. We really get it there that there are separate identities.
Totally.
And that's actually hinted at by Bruce Banner but the opposite when he says, I used to be, even when I was Hulk, Banner was still there.
Yeah.
But now Hulk's just completely taking the wheel.
Right. Yeah, in Endgame, he integrates the two personalities, is what you're talking about.
No, I'm saying Banner says that in this movie, in Ragnarok.
Because he says that when Banner was there, when Hulk was in power, Banner just didn't exist. So he had no idea time had passed.
Right. Normally, when Hulk is Hulk, Banner is aware of what's going on, and now this time he wasn't.
Yep.
So you don't understand because you've never done mushrooms. I'm serious.
You turn into the Hulk when you do mushrooms?
No, but you can be...
That's crystal meth.
It's
shoot, yeah.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. It's like, if you're on PCP, you just come back and you're like...
I destroyed my entire apartment.
I've never been on PCP.
Welcome to the segment of the show where we rate drugs according to their superhero.
But PCP, it sounds like, man, I can't be held responsible. I was on PCP.
I mean, I think I can understand that concept without doing mushrooms. But
the thing with mushrooms is like, this is all wacky and stuff, but there's a small part of your consciousness who's like, yeah, you're just on mushrooms.
Yeah, dude, it's chill.
It's always there. So.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I loved how Hulk being an actual character in this movie allowed them to have this sort of buddy moment. Like they fight in the gladiatorial in the arena, but then later Thor wakes up in Hulk's like chambers, and he's got these fancy chambers because he's like the champion of the planet, and they are able to have these kind of like one-on-one conversations. And after they kind of initially clash, they have what is basically like a scene that would be straight out of like a buddy comedy from like the 80s kind of thing, where like they're fighting and then they reconcile. And it was just so funny to have that scene, but with these like ridiculous, overpowered superhero characters.
Funny.
Big giant green guy.
Hulk like fire. Thor like water.
Yeah.
I'm like a fire. No, but Hulk like raging fire.
Yeah.
You're like smoldering ember.
And then he just like decides to move on from that.
There's so much good banter, and a lot of the most awesome humor comes from
Apparently, 80% of this movie is ad-libbed or improv.
That's amazing.
Apparently, that's like shows you the skill of Taika Waititi, that he's like able to make it all work so well with all those jokes and all.
Man, how about seeing the Hulk's dank? That's so funny. I love that Thor got to see it and how it was handled. Like, that's in my mind forever now. That's so awesome.
Yeah. I think going into this movie, knowing Taika Waititi was directing it, I didn't know. I think the only movie of his I had seen was The Hunt for the Wilder People. Have you guys seen that?
Oh yeah.
No, I've only seen Jojo Rabbit.
Oh man. See, I will make the recommendation to everybody who liked this movie that you have to watch The Hunt for the Wilder People, because even the Hunt for the Wilder People is hilarious, but it also has these like really, really good human moments, and it's got like a good moral of the story and character development. Like it's a good movie and it's hilarious. And I think going into this one, I was like, Taika Waititi's directing, and that kind of combined with the Marvelness of it, I just went in expecting funny, crazy adventure romp. But like, I was surprised at how much depth there is in this movie. There's a lot of like depth in terms of like themes and character growth and all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, because like I
Yeah,
hear
no.
you.
Yeah, and no.
Yeah and no.
Oh, okay.
I totally agree. I love Taika Waititi. I love that his movies are often very easy to get into, where the beginning is kind of very easy to digest. Even Jojo Rabbit, like there's kind of a bit of an edge because there's the Nazis, but it's like a kid's fun romp.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Same with Hunt for the Wilder People or Boy. Like they're all fun, but by the end, there's kind of like a turn into the children growing into realizing how dark of a situation they're in. Like Boy, he realizes this poverty is really hard, or
Right.
Yeah, Hunt for the Wilder People, the situation's getting really serious, or Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Spoilers. I'll
rid of
bleep that. I'll bleep that. But this movie to me never nails that side of it as much. Like there's kind of an attempt to have him kind of want to have that relationship with his father or his sister, and that side of the movie never landed for me.
The Thor's like familial problems.
Yeah, I think Loki is the one that does, and that's because they've invested into it. But all the Hela stuff does nothing for me. And the Odin stuff does absolutely nothing for me.
No, I think I'm with you there. That was the one part of the movie theme-wise that I thought was lacking, like the whole like familial aspect of it. Because you know that you get the brother dynamic there, and there's a lot of like tension and drama there, and that's why I loved having that. They have that like elevator scene where they kind of like realize the reality of what their characters and stuff, and that's cool. But I agree that the fact that Hela's their sister and that Odin's their dad, it just kind of like doesn't really, it feels more like Hela's just the big bad guy.
Totally.
I think it's because there's no attempt for reconciliation. She shows up, within seconds she's like, nail.
Yeah.
And they don't, and then she's like, now I'm killing you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
She's
never like,
before.
join me.
Yeah.
We can rule together. That's not an ongoing conversation.
That would have been a really interesting thing to include, is her like wanting to have some sort of connection with her brother.
And why doesn't that tempt Loki?
Yeah, this ultimate power.
That's a good question.
It's also like, I think part of it is that we don't get the sense that that dark streak in Odin still exists, that he was a reformed man. And so like her being like, you didn't know our real father. It's like, no, actually, like he might have been like that one time, but he's not like that anymore. So what you're saying means nothing.
But Odin should have had to have responded to that.
Yeah.
In those like visions when he's speaking to Thor, he should have responded to Hela's allegations of, I actually kind of think she's like almost an allegory for nuclear weapons in a way. Like it's kind of like you could see this through an American lens where it's like the Asgardians are like colonialists and they're just like they've done
expanded.
They are prospering from things they've done in the past that were atrocious, and now they don't talk about it. And Hela is like nukes. He used Hela to prosper, and then that was bad. I shouldn't have done that. And then he locks her up and puts it away. We don't talk about Hela anymore.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I feel like the nuke allegory would be better if like the primary way that America colonized and did their bad stuff was with nukes instead of just like ending World War II with it. But
I'm not saying this is the intention of the screenwriters at all. It's just a lens through which I saw it.
Yeah. No,
How do you know Christopher Columbus didn't have a nuke on board?
He might have
not
been
even American.
That's how he took over America.
If you don't comply, I blow this up. I blow this all up.
He just like shows up to the just people, opens up his tunic, and it's just a bomb strapped to him.
Got a trench coat full of little nukes.
Do you know what the hell this is?
The Native Americans are like, oh, do what he says.
That's a nice coat.
Yeah. I think part of why the Hela stuff doesn't land is that she's never not CG. Did you guys know that? There is no suit. She never wears a suit. It's a motion capture suit, and they replace it the whole time.
I thought her costume actually looked pretty sick. It was her helmet.
Yeah, her helmet never looks good.
I started counting every time she swipes her hand across her hair to like initiate the helmet. I was like, oh man, you need to click her. I bet she does this a dozen times in the movie. I think it's only like 3.
Yeah,
but every time it was
feels
just kind of
like
like, nah.
I think for me, it's when she like will do the like pulling out the sword from her elbow and is like
from her elbow,
and it's just you can
how
tell
do you keep all those swords
when it
in your
goes
elbow?
from like normal motion to some weird CG motion, and it just never looks right.
Her hair and makeup actually kind of miffed me a bit too. When she first shows up, you're like, holy shit, Avril Lavigne's here. She's got like this huge like punky eye makeup and her hair's like in front of her face like the chick from The Ring. And that was a little too much for me. But then it goes to like next scene, I think when she's confronting the brothers, her hair is just like a little straighter. It's a little more back. It's like it seems like that was a different day on set with a different makeup artist or something.
Yeah,
and it kind of oscillates throughout the movie like that.
Odin promised me a skater boy.
I said, see you later, boy.
I don't like your girlfriend.
I love this. And also her motion during fight scenes.
Yeah.
Her first fight scene when she's slaughtering all the like honor guards, and you can tell she's just like this blurry, bendy CG mess. That is what I'm talking about when I gave this a 6.8 and I said I didn't really like all the action. Specifically that.
Oh, totally. That's
my
a terrible
biggest
fight.
That's my biggest complaint about like basically in any Marvel movie, that'll be my biggest complaint. Other than if the character arc sucks or whatever, is that there are these like super CGI heavy scenes that you can really tell are CGI. Like that. Interestingly, I thought the Thor and Hulk fight was like, that's very CGI, but
it works.
But it works really well, and it doesn't really make you think about it on that level. Yeah. Whereas the Hela fight, you're like,
I think it comes down to
all
stakes.
These swords are flying out
For
of
me,
nowhere.
it's stakes because Hela, she's confronted by 100 soldiers. They are disposable henchmen.
Right.
I know she's going to slaughter them all.
Yeah.
My brain's like, bunk off. Let's start thinking about food or something because who cares?
It would almost be better if they just like made that scene like really short, just like her facing off, like they just kind of start to run at each other or whatever, and you kind of get the gist that she just destroyed
It's just
them.
a bunch of motion blur and slicing, and you don't really get any of it. Whereas in a movie like Batman Begins or Dark Knight, you know that like these are stunt actors on the ground. This guy, they created this fighting style that's going to be really like prison fighting, a lot of elbows, close combat, like it's brutal.
Yeah.
You feel all the impacts, all the crunches, like just the bone shattering, limb snapping, axe kick to the face, kind of like snapping your visor off your helmet kind of impacts.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it's just like, oh, she's weightless, floating around.
You know what?
I'd say oh, sorry.
Well, what was how much of that do you think was a function of rewatching it? Because I feel like,
I mean, for me, my rewatch?
Yeah.
Well, I watched this once in like 2017 on a plane. So it was pretty
Which is a perfectly valid way to watch movies.
No, it's not.
I think maybe, I was thinking that the function of that scene is to show her power, because we need to, like, we saw her destroy Mjolnir.
That was the function of that. That was enough.
For sure. But like, I think that even, maybe we're like, oh, she's Thor's brother, so that's why she can do that. But like, I think that the function of her destroying all those, that scene, destroying all the soldiers, was kind of like, all right, we need to see an entire army come at her and her single-handedly just destroy them.
I think it was a dual purpose. They also wanted to destroy the army so that she could raise her own army from the dead and have her own.
And then,
So it makes
they're
sense.
fighting zombies, and it's fine.
And that's why I'm not too mad at that scene, because I'm like, all right, if the only way to make it more perfect was to add stakes in some way for us to like believe that maybe the soldiers can win.
I think there's more to why the Hulk and Thor fight works better, and it's a lot of it's pacing, where it's like, okay, we have these like high action moments and the big impacts, but then we have the like, we're taking a second, we're breathing, we're making a joke, we're doing this, and like there's kind of the push pull, and that works. But the other fight that did not work for me, like 1%, is the opening fight when he's talking to whatever the Fireface dude. And then all the minions come and he's just like swinging his hammer all the minions are just running into the hammer.
Yeah.
It's so silly, and it just feels like he's like doing like nunchuck moves and they're like running into his hammer. And it just feels like it's like weightless and they don't exist. And there was you can just tell he was on a green screen and there was no one there. Yeah. And it just like, it feels so weird and silly.
I mean, you're saying that like you would want it to feel a bit more like maybe he's not doing this so easily?
I just think the choice of moves and like the style of it, and the whole point of that scene is to show you how much his power relies on Mjolnir, which is great, and it works because then when it goes, you're like, oh, what does he do again?
What does he do? Wait, how does Thor do anything without Mjolnir?
But those two scenes, the Hela scene and that Surtur scene, are similar in that there's no drama compared to the Hulk fight, which is. He's like, yes, my buddy is here. Oh, you're not my friend. He's navigating this. Like,
He's from work.
Where do we stand right now?
Yeah.
And so you have that drama. Those other scenes don't have that.
Yeah. And then he gets the lightning power. That's been foreshadowed twice.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. When he's like at the Grandmaster and he's like, I am the God of Thunder. And like little sparks come out of his hands and Jeff Goldblum's like, ooh, that's what sparkles?
Did he not use lightning in the other movies ever?
No. I think it's if he does, it's like part of his
hammer
attack.
strike.
Yeah.
He'll do like an area of effect, kind of smash on the ground, and then a lightning bolt comes.
Yeah.
But
He's
this
never-
is like now Thor is like God powered because he's probably the most powerful Avenger with the lightning and the axe.
Him or Palpatine. They both.
Yeah,
both
that's
got the
kind of
lightning.
interesting because I know that like Thor and Hulk in the past in comics and stuff have clashed on multiple occasions, but it's I understood it to be Thor always barely survives those encounters. Like
With
the
Hulk?
Hulk is like this unstoppable force, and like it's almost like the more you hit him,
The stronger he gets.
the stronger he gets. So yeah, the Hulk in the MCU is definitely like a little bit of a different power level than the one in the comics.
Well, you're
because
right.
He gets beat up by Thor and by Thanos, no problem.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. In the comics, he's unstoppable because the more angry he gets, the stronger he gets. So the more you hurt him, and like they have the kind of Super Saiyan levels of Hulk where he's like level 7 angry.
Yeah,
and he's just
it's like Ultra Hulk or something. Yeah.
Did you guys
Transforms?
Did you guys see Hulk coming the first time you saw this movie? And I don't know what was in the trailer, but the first time you saw this movie, when it goes to the stadium, did you know it was going to be Hulk?
I had heard that this was like a Planet Hulk movie.
I absolutely knew that Hulk was there, but that's probably because I researched things way too much beforehand.
I didn't do any research, but I had seen that animated Planet Hulk movie. I had seen that, and they actually do foreshadow it very slightly immediately before Hulk shows up, which is it shows the stadium going crazy, and the stadium launches not fireworks, but like
green,
like
smoke.
dust thing that are
Yeah.
smoke, and they're green.
Yeah. Huh. That's great.
But it's funny in that Planet Hulk thing, he does fight Thor and gets his ass kicked by Thor. But it's that other alternate like Beta Ray Bill Thor, the BoJack Horseman Thor, the Thor that has like a
Where's
weird.
that? Oh, in
the Planet Hulk animated
one.
movie.
Right, yeah. Beta Ray Bill.
Beta Ray Bill's so weird. I don't know what it is.
Such a weird character because he's like an alien, but his race doesn't look like that horse face thing. Like they just look like like more humanoid. But Beta Ray Bill was altered genetically and like he was made a cyborg and stuff. So it's like
This is not the stuff that won't work.
it's annoying to me as a lore guy because when I was doing a bunch of research for this movie, I was like, oh yeah, Beta Ray Bill, what's that guy about? And I was looking it up. He's like, oh, he's a Corbinite. What do Corbinites look like? Not like Beta Ray Bill. I was like, what? Anyways, that's a complete side note.
They use that well. It's a nice nod to other parts of Marvel, and it totally fit here. And the parts on Sakaar are my favorite parts of the movie.
Totally.
Whenever it switches back to Hela, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then she's got Keith Urban there, Scourge, and he's basically just
Carl.
Yeah.
he's just like the exposition.
Wait,
dude.
who's Keith Urban?
He's a country music
Oh
star.
shit! Keith
I
Urban.
was like, that doesn't
David.
sound
Carl
right.
Urban,
Carl
the dude
Urban.
from Lord of the Rings. He's from
The
Rohan.
Boys.
Dude from everything.
He's
Yeah.
in The Boys.
Star Trek.
Doctor in Star Trek, yeah.
That guy's pretty wicked. But in this movie, he's basically is just there to absorb exposition so Hela can say her
absolutely.
plan.
But he has a pretty good redemption arc. I think I feel it. I buy why he would turn because like he just saw her like massacre all these powerful people, no problem.
Yeah.
But then at the moment when he like has to step up, he does it, and he has a great little stupid, silly destroy.
Destroy.
And he jumps off the plane, and he's like, bah, 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 bah,
On
bah.
Asgard, you never run out of ammo.
Yeah.
Until you do. He does run out of ammo, but those magazines can hold like 50,000 bullets.
The current theory is that they're enchanted, so they double the ammo.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that saves it.
Thank you, theory.
I feel like Scourge. Go ahead.
They really efficiently set him up. Like when he's just screwing around with his like stash at the beginning, and you don't know that that Hela exists and that he's gonna turn. You just think, oh, this is just an artifact of the fact that Loki's in charge and everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
And then they just use him as this role later. It's very efficient.
I feel like the fact that Scourge, which is like a super minor character in this movie, had that kind of like arc. I feel like that speaks to me about how well they managed all the different characters in this movie. Like I wrote down that I was so impressed with the way that not only do all the characters have important things to confront and like journeys to go through, but they're all kind of based on the same theme, which is confronting the past, the traumatic, uncomfortable past. So Odin's history of bloodshed, obviously, he kind of like confronts that and decides to like become benevolent. Loki tries to rewrite history by taking Odin's place and like ruling Asgard and being like, he tries to rewrite history with that play that he puts on and stuff. And then later he has to confront his past and kind of like changes his ways, come back to help evacuate the Asgardians. Valkyrie drinks to forget her trauma at the hands of Hela, and then confronts that and decides to put on her armor again and fight for good. Hulk, even Hulk has, like, he confronts his past as Banner. He pushes it down, and then later, kind of like Bruce Banner. Wait, what did I write about this? Oh, he tries to push his past down, but then he's forced to confront his past when he sees the video of Natasha.
What about Thor, though?
So this is the biggest weakness, I think, of this movie, and that's why I was talking about, with the familial stuff comes in, and how that I think that could be a lot stronger if they put a bit more effort onto that. But Thor's place in that theme wasn't as apparent to me, but I think that his quest is to avoid becoming what Odin became. I think he's like the purpose of us seeing Odin and like the bloodshed and the conquest that they engaged in. I think that the purpose of that is to allow Thor to be like, hey, you don't have to do this. You can kind of write your own history. And the culmination of that is him deciding that, yes, we can cause Ragnarok. We will destroy Asgard. Asgard isn't a place, it's a people. And so he's not beholden to the past to like do the conquest and be the king that his father was. He's going to like lead his people in a different way.
And it's cool because it's again the what the character wants versus what they need. He wants throughout the movie to take the throne of Asgard and rule it and become like his father. But that's not what he needs. However, I think that a lot of the development of his character, even if it can be called that, is handed to him. It's Odin being like, Asgard is a people, not a place. And it's kind of given to him. He doesn't proactively take that.
Yeah. And as I completely agree. As interesting as this movie makes Thor, because in previous movies he was like super lame.
They cut his hair.
Yeah. Well, they make him funny, and they make him they add a bit more like character dynamics, so he has these kind of like real relationships with the Hulk and Valkyrie and Bruce and Loki. Like we kind of like expound on these relationships a lot more than they have in previous movies. So they make him a more interesting character, but I think I agree with you that it does feel a little bit we're on the rails.
I was kind of like, what is his arc?
Yeah.
But part of it is he's kind of an iconic character. We talked about this last time. Iconic characters, like if you're thinking about the three levers that characters can have to pull, likability, proactivity, and what's the other one? Competence. Iconic characters just have those all to the max all the time.
Right.
And so he kind of is one, except in this movie, it's actually kind of like James Bond movie we covered that Casino Royale, in that you take an iconic character and you nerf their competence.
Right.
So they take away his hammer.
He's depowered.
And he has to kind of like build that back up, because you're not going to take away his likability.
No, of course not.
And he's very proactive in this movie, trying to get the throne and everything back.
Yeah.
I think his arc is the power of friendship, realizing that he can't be so self-reliant. Like at the beginning of the movie, he does everything by himself. And then through circumstance, he has to team up with everybody, create the Revengers.
The Revengers.
Yeah.
My favorite joke in this movie is when they're coming up with he's like, so what's the team name? And he's like, the Revengers, because I want revenge. You want revenge. And Valkyrie's like, no, yeah. And he's like, and Bruce Banner's right there, and he's like, would you like revenge?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm undecided.
Oh, my favorite joke in the whole movie is at the end when they're back on Asgard, and Tessa Thompson's character doesn't know that Bruce Banner is the Hulk. And he's like, he turns to her, he's about to jump off the plane. He's like, I got this. And he jumps off. And then do you think it's going to be an epic landing shot? He just fucking dies on the bridge. You get a close up of him like all mangled. Kills me.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
It's a great. What this movie does is it'll undercut its own undercut. And it's interesting. I love like kind of studying in the Marvel movies how they undercut in different movies. And what this movie does is it'll undercut a serious moment with a joke, but then it'll undercut that joke with an epic moment, so that it kind of like folds over onto itself. And then the payoff, the setup that was working for a different direction is now working in favor of this kind of more strongly.
Do you have an example of this?
Yeah, well, in that case where it's like, okay, we're setting up this epic moment. Okay, we're paying off with the joke. And then the wolf is like, okay, I'm going to go eat those people. And then you get the epic Hulk grabbing him moment, being like, bah! Or another moment.
Okay. So that kind of goes along with there's another screenwriting thing or story writing thing where you go, this happens and then this happens, but then this happens and it just oscillates between good thing happen, bad thing happen.
Yeah.
I think that Marvel is peculiarly good at balancing those things. I feel like a lot of movies try to walk the line between like comedy and epic moments. like Justice League, like it just doesn't work as well. Whereas this movie and a lot of other Marvel movies, it's just they're so good at it.
Yeah, they're really good.
And I think that just like it really comes down to, I don't know what good writing. I don't know how to explain it other than like it's. I'm sure that there's a formula to it that you could figure out, but like whatever it is, Marvel has figured out the formula because
Totally.
It's like you just go from laughing to leaning forward in excitement to like laughing again. It's just like it's so good.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think this movie is funnier than Guardians of the Galaxy?
It's hard. I've seen it less than Guardians, so it got more laughs for me on this rewatch.
I think that this movie is funnier than Guardians of the Galaxy because Guardians, they're like slightly different tones.
Mm-hmm.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy is like, we're a bunch of a-holes and I'm gonna put my foot up your butt, idiot, shut up, that kind of stuff. It's all Rocket Raccoon, only Rocket Raccoon. But this one is a bit more like, it's got Taika Waititi's peculiar sense of like Kiwi awkwardness. Like
hilarious.
Oh, it's just,
Grog.
it's so...
Korg is so hilarious.
It's so good, yeah. Hey guys, I'm cool, nice to meet you.
I tried to start a revolution.
He actually
No,
okay.
shut up
pamphlets.
because I didn't print enough pamphlets.
Once again, my wife was on her phone on the couch while I was watching this, and she actually looked up and laughed whenever he was talking.
Nice.
She gave this disclaimer that it was because it's just the accent's funny.
Whatever.
But like, come on.
She's breaking. Her shell is eroding. She will love Marvel movies eventually.
Yeah, he's just a brilliant man.
Pile of rocks over here. I'm actually a being.
I'm excited. I think I'm really excited that Taika Waititi has shown that he's now able to do like the $100 million blockbuster on top of his like kind of more intimate stuff. Because like, who knows where his career goes now? And like, hopefully his next, is he doing Love and Thunder? Do you guys know? Is he directing it?
Yes, I think he
With
is.
Natalie Portman as Lady Thor.
This makes me scared
Wait,
for Taika
what
Waititi.
is that? I've never heard of this. And
That's Thor 4 is going to be Natalie Portman as Lady Thor. So
what is Lady
in the
Thor?
comic book-
Why wasn't she in this movie?
She's not
the
Lady
comic
Thor,
book-
she's just Thor.
she's Lady Thor.
Dude.
2020, baby.
That's what they say on the headlines.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. But it's just because they suck. But in the comic books, sometimes like Mjolnir is imbued with Thor's power. And same in the first movie. Thor actually loses his power and it's all imbued in Mjolnir as a punishment for betraying Asgard or whatever.
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah, he goes on like a quest to try and get like him and his buddies to destroy the Ice King or whatever
I
the
know
frost giants.
in the comics they say that whoever can lift the hammer will be imbued with the power of Thor.
Yeah, and so like
that's in the comics, but I don't think they stuck to that so much in the movies.
there's a little bit of that in the first, and then they
definitely
kind
not
of
in
throw
this
that
movie.
out.
Right.
But I think they're going to do that because now Mjolnir and his axe exists, and he doesn't care about Mjolnir. He just wants his axe now. And so
Stormbreaker won't give you the power.
yeah, and so I think that she'll find the Mjolnir and will be found worthy and become super powerful.
What did you say about Stormbreaker? That's the axe's name?
Stormbreaker is the axe that he crafts in Infinity War.
It's so good.
He goes to the realm of the dwarves. And,
Yeah.
what's his name? Who's the short guy?
Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage.
What a great name.
Yeah.
But I know, but it differs from Mjolnir in that he doesn't get certain powers from it.
Well, so Mjolnir was a weapon specifically crafted by Odin?
It was by that guy. It was
by the dwarves?
Yeah, he made.
But it was
Mjolnir as
specifically
well.
crafted by them to channel the power of Thor?
Yeah, it was like specifically made for him, and it was to only he who is worthy of ruling
But
Asgard.
Stormbreaker was specifically designed to kill Thanos. So anybody could technically wield Stormbreaker.
But it's still magic.
But it's still like a magic dwarf weapon, so it like allows him to channel his power even more and stuff. So
Okay.
and I guess he can fly with it.
So excited about watching Infinity War and Endgame, guys.
So hold on though. This Lady Thor movie is happening. Taika Waititi's directing it.
I'm not sure if it's Taika Waititi.
Yeah, in
but
the comics, Jane Foster, Natalie Portman in the movies, she is imbued with the power of Thor because Thor is deemed unworthy. So then he's not like quote unquote
because he
Thor
gets
anymore.
fat.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the question about when they do Love of Thunder is because they've already kind of done this whole Thor is unworthy thing, so they're gonna have to find another angle for
I think
why
he's just going to take
Thor.
a break and go galaxy hopping, and she'll be like the Earth Thor.
And she'll like get a Mjolnir from another dimension or something. Because
Well, there's already a Mjolnir in this dimension.
no, it's destroyed.
Oh, did they destroy it?
Well, in this movie, Hela destroys
No, but
Mjolnir.
remember it in Endgame? How?
Yeah, but he returns it.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what are you talking about?
Captain America has a Mjolnir because Thor goes
For people who haven't seen Infinity War,
Well, we
Endgame,
should
they're
save it.
just
We
like
should
not
save it.
following.
Yeah. We'll save it. We'll save it. I'm so excited about it.
Sorry, guys.
That's gonna be a wacky movie, man. Natalie Portman flying around with a hammer. That is going to be
especially
wacky.
because they like wrote her off of this series.
Why wasn't she in this one?
She backed out. She didn't want to be part of it anymore. And then she's like, I probably should keep this going.
Yeah. I haven't done anything else since.
I had a good thing going.
Yeah.
Although this is kind of I mean, that's an interesting question to ask. Like, what do these Marvel actors do? Like, what has Chris Evans done that's not?
Chris Evans has
He's
done
done
a lot.
couple things.
Chris Evans is doing fine.
Knives
He's
Out.
a big TV show, being Jacob or defending Jacob or whatever it's
Robert
called.
Downey Jr. on the other hand,
Did Doolittle.
dude, Doolittle.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Bad decision. Anyways, let's go back to the
Hold
movie.
on, I gotta see. I don't want to talk shit about Natalie Portman. I really like her. Great person.
She's great.
I
yeah.
want to know if she did anything after Thor.
Oh, she did lots.
Oh, yeah.
Annihilation.
Holy
That's
cow!
2017?
Yeah, there's like 15 projects here.
Yeah,
she's doing
she's
fine.
prolific. I did want to talk about. We talked a little bit about it, but like the opening of this movie, because I feel like, as I mentioned when I did my synopsis, a lot happens in this movie. We jump from planet to planet to planet, people to characters all over the place. What did you guys think about that? Was it like a little confusing?
I actually don't even know if I agree with you. I didn't think that much happened.
Really? Well, especially in the first 25 minutes, we go from Thor battling Surtur to.
But that's just
back
like
on
an opening.
Asgard.
That's like on the episode of A Simpsons, you
Yeah.
know, where like they just do something random and that just sets up the rest of the episode. It's just like, yeah. Didn't
bother you?
He's kicking ass a little bit. I like that it's all connected.
Yeah.
They, you know, I'm gonna bring this thing to our the head, the helmet, to the vault. The vault is also where the flame is. If those two things go together, Ragnarok starts. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel discombobulated that we're all over the place.
Yeah, and I like that they imbue meaning into that scene too, because they're like, I will have Ragnarok. No, you will not Ragnarok. No, I will Ragnarok. And you're like, this must be important.
yeah, they keep saying Ragnarok.
I hate in that first scene though how it starts and he's like, I bet you're wondering how I got here, huh? And it's the skull. It's not quite that. It's a little bit more, but he's like,
Yeah, I was like,
he's
wait,
narrating.
What character is
He's
saying
narrating, and Thor is narrating. He's in the
Yeah.
cage, and he's just like he's talking to the skeleton, and it's like a good little cutaway to the skeleton whose jaw falls off. But it's the
I know
the
what you're
gist.
thinking.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
Thor? Oh no, he'll
Yeah.
get captured.
Yeah.
I like that little twist because you think it's narration or voiceover, and you're like, what? And then, oh,
He's
it's not.
talking to
He's
the
just
skeleton.
It's kind of nonsensical that he's talking to the skeleton, but it's just a funny little gag.
That's like a classic movie opening trope. I don't know. I liked it.
I really like how he has this conversation with Surtur that's like, Surtur's really epic and gravitas and like and using old timey language, and then the comedy is so modern. He's like, you know,
Oh, hold
I
on.
shall doth engage Ragnarok, and then he's just like, oh, hold on, it's spinning again. I swear, I'm not. It's doing this on its own. This isn't me.
No, that's great. And
Because he's
it's
hanging from the chain, and the chain is spinning so that they can't make eye contact while they're talking. Just so everyone.
it's such great signals to the audience about the type of movie that you're
It's a
watching.
tone promise.
Yeah, tone promise. There you
Totally.
go with your
Boom.
terms,
Well,
man.
and this movie never fails to use its details to tell jokes, and it's like just like those little things, like when Loki's taken away by Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange leaves a little business card. Instead of like in a crappier movie, Thor would like pick it up and be like, "Huh." He just like pokes it with his like umbrella, and he's just like,
yeah.
it's just like, okay, yeah, it's a good choice.
I wanted to
great
say
choice.
that I read some of the screenplay for this the other day, and it's always good when the writer's voice comes out in the screenplay. And because of the tone of this movie, they were in the scene descriptions. For those who don't know what screenplays look like, there's dialogue and then there's scene descriptions. You know, they're in a cavern that's covered in flame. And in the scene descriptions, they also use some of that same comedic language. So when we get to Scourge, and Scourge is like at the beginning of the movie running down the long pier, you know, that thing, that lighthouse that he works at is like
Odin's
this
Bridge,
such a huge long bridge. He's running down it, and they wrote in the scene description, he runs down the long, like with like 11 O's pier. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, this movie does a good job using like different types of comedy. Like, have you guys seen that Why Edgar Wright is so good, like video essay by Every Frame a Painting?
Probably like
feel
3
like
years
that-
ago.
If you guys haven't
Yeah.
seen that painting, look it up. Every Frame a Painting, Edgar Wright, why he's
It's
so
a
good.
YouTube channel. It's a really good
and it
one.
talks basically about the idea how modern comedies use kind of one type of comedy, which is the dialogue and the improv-y joke. But there's so much more. There's like things leaving the frames. There's like visual jokes. There's all this kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And this movie does a lot of that. Where like one scene in particular, I was like, oh yeah, this is smart. Is when Thor's trying to reason with Valkyrie. and he's like, come on, help me. And she puts her knife to his throat, and he's like slowly talking it away. And just as the one knife is leaving the frame, she brings up another knife. And it's just like, oh yeah, things leaving and entering the frame.
That one down too.
Valkyrie's
so
character is so good, man.
Yeah, we haven't talked about her at all.
She's such a bad bitch, and the comedy is hilarious too. Although her introduction when she comes out of the ship and is drunk and falls over, that didn't age that well for me.
Oh, why?
I don't know. It just seemed it was almost too slapsticky.
Yeah,
oh, really?
I agree.
Yeah, it was kind of like rote, I guess. But I don't know. I liked it. That's the thing I have to appreciate about these Marvel movies is that they do these cliches, right? They're like, oh, you're in trouble, and I show up with the badass ship, and I'm gonna rescue you. And it you've seen this a million times before, but they just execute everything so well that I can't hate him for that.
And it's actually not that much of a cliche. It's kind of Captain Jack Sparrow-y.
Right.
Like, oh, this hero's here. Oh,
Exactly.
they're an unworthy, like unwilling hero.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's a woman who's an alcoholic is kind of cool. I haven't really seen that.
Fight for
Let's see
liberation.
more women alcoholic representation.
This movie has the first female villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and she's also lame.
She's okay.
Yeah.
I think Cate Blanchett does the most with what she has given.
I mean, in addition to the male characters,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
all the
yeah,
kind of early Marvel
But
villains are lame.
I was thinking about this, and I don't know how you guys feel. I think the Marvel needs to start like investing in different like levels of bosses, because there's kind of like the one movie boss and the Thanos, and like there's also Loki, who's kind of been around, but he's not really a villain.
He's kind of like mid-tier.
Yeah,
But
He's
But
an
we need-
anti-hero.
We need some more like 2-3 movie bosses to
Yeah,
overcome, and I
that
think
could be cool.
that'd be cool for the next phase where we start to see like one villain over 2 or
like,
3
oh,
movies.
it's Red Skull again, that son of a bitch. Of course
exactly.
it would be him.
Right.
Yeah, because we keep getting like these Hellas or these Vultures or these
Yeah.
like Killmongers that are like okay, but they go away, and then it's like, yeah, okay.
Especially in the origin movies, as we've discussed on this podcast. In movie 1 of whatever series, like Iron Man 1 or Spider-Man 1, it's like, that's a throwaway villain because they don't have time to set up the villain when they're spending so much time
Yeah.
setting up the hero.
I guess Captain America kind of has Hydra, but that's not.
It's like an organization.
yeah, it's like it's just basically an excuse to have a bunch of different villains that are like loosely tied together.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the next like leveling up in the skill of balancing all this comic bookness is the way that they've figured out how to balance all these, introducing new characters while providing ones so that you can kind of have like familiarity with excitement and all this stuff. They bring that over to the villain side.
X-Men universe is really good at that.
Yeah, totally.
It's all kind of integrated. Like,
Right.
well, there's different factions. You've obviously got the X-Men, and then you've got Magneto's outfit, the Brotherhood, and then on the human side, there's like Genosha, and then there's like Mr. Sinister and all the clones and shit, and they're all kind of related and kind of fractal like that.
Right.
That I want to see that brought to the screen. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
for
they're gonna do
Marvel
X-Men.
Studios X-Men. I
Yeah.
can't wait. I really hope they do it right. And
Are they using the same actors and stuff?
No.
No, they're not-
They'll do a full reset.
Really?
I think they'll have to.
Why,
'Cause I think
who would you want them to carry over?
I don't know. I think James McAvoy and
I never liked
Fassbender.
McAvoy.
Maybe.
I never liked
Why
McAvoy
not?
as Xavier. Patrick Stewart was Xavier to me. I don't know.
He's too old now, though.
I know. Yeah, for sure.
They could
I think
de-age
Michael
him.
Fassbender was a great Magneto.
Yes.
He's the one person I would be like, yeah, bring him over.
Right.
And you could, like, Wolverine has been in kind of in different.
Well, I feel like all the rest of the X-Men, like they're young. They're still
Yeah,
they
but
can
none
still
of them
play them.
None of them are remarkable. I think they could. Disney has such good casting directors,
Right.
that I think they might do a better job building this.
The
up from
only
ground
one
up.
where I'm like, they could be improved, or at least it'll be a horizontal like switch that would be equal but different. The only one I'm worried about, of course, is Wolverine. I don't know if anyone could beat Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
See, but we talked about this in a previous podcast. I didn't love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine from the get-go because I feel like he wasn't gruff enough.
But yeah, you're.
Well, what do you have against geckos?
What'd you call me?
Never. Stupid.
I think that.
Wait. I need you to explain this.
You said get go. It sounded like gecko.
All
It's one of those
right.
things. I have a friend. You know that thing like, oh, take it for granted. Did you just say take it for granted? I have a friend that we always text each other things like that, like
yeah.
Squid Pro Crow.
old timers disease. And
Oh
so
my
like,
gosh, that one actually works, I guess. Yeah, in the comics, Wolverine is this like he literally looks like a beast man. Like he's got this crazy stony hooked nose and like he's just like supposed to be gruff and like
Big
smoking
chops.
cigars.
And he's like
Yeah.
5'3" or whatever.
Yeah, and Hugh
he's
Jackman,
a Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman was jacked for the movie, but like he wasn't like I want to see him hulking a bit more, you know?
I don't know, man. Jackman's pretty steroided up, like big.
He was, but he was lean. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Wolverine needs to be like a freaking bodybuilder.
He got there by the end. I think by like Days of
Bodybuilders
Future
aren't-
Past.
You mean bodybuilders aren't lean? You mean like power lifter? Like
I mean,
you want some fat on the bone
like,
too?
Jackman
Just
looked like
thick.
me if I put on more muscle. And I expect
He
to
is
see
6'3".
I expect to see David in his prime.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. More as wide as you are tall.
Yeah. And I think that they should go as far from Jackman in the next Wolverine as possible. Like
That would be wise.
Purposefully distinguish him, like short, younger, but really hairy and gross. Like, not have him be like the main hero. I'd say like Wolverine ended up being the main hero of every X-Men movie ever.
Right.
And in the first one, he was like the noob, so who people explain things to explain the world to.
Man,
it's so natural though.
We got so we're talking about Thor Ragnarok here, guys. Let's bring it back a little bit. Okay, let's talk a little about Jeff Goldblum and Sakaar. Okay,
He rules.
because it was just such a brilliant decision to cast Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster and just let him be Jeff Goldblum. Like, what is... it's literally Jeff Goldblum on screen. And I think that's what's so great about Marvel, too, is that they can just, like, get these high-profile actors and have them play these, like, minor parts. Particularly, like, in the intro scene, Matt Damon is playing Loki. It's completely unexpected, and he's not even credited.
Oh yeah, well, and
Matt
then
Damon is not credited in this movie.
It's Chris Hemsworth's brother playing him, and then Sam Neill as Odin.
Sam Neill.
Yeah.
And I love that because Sam Neill was a main character in
Hunt for
the Wilder People. And I love seeing like Taika Waititi kind of bring in his people that he works with. So Topaz as well, Jeff Goldblum's assistant, was like the main antagonist in Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah. And she is amazing.
So funny.
Oh my God. Yeah. What do I say about Scrapper 142? She always brings the best stuff. I always say about her, she is and it starts with a B.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Trash.
Were you just waiting to say trash? It doesn't even start with a B. And then right away, she's like, booze hag. The timing comedically, especially in these Jeff Goldblum on Sakaar scenes, like, I can't get enough. I want to watch them a million times.
100%.
When I was writing my notes for this movie, I just like went back and watched a bunch of these scenes again because I was just like, and I laughed every time.
So good.
How about when they're in the ship and they press that like eject button and it's the birthday button? He's like, it's my birthday.
Is it like the flat?
Here's a question though: why the hell is Loki also on Sakaar? They're all in this Bifrost interdimensional like wormhole thing, and Hela knocks Loki out first. Then Thor continues to fight for like 5 seconds, and then Thor gets knocked out. He lands on Sakaar. Wouldn't you think that Loki is like light years away?
Well, so Sakaar is like the dump hole of the whole universe. So there's like it looks like there's thousands of gates onto Sakaar. So it's not that unreasonable that they would.
Okay, so maybe Loki landed somewhere and there was a gate there, and he did that, and then he goes on.
And it seems like he landed in a better spot where he had a better chance to move up.
Yeah, because he was there a few weeks ahead or whatever.
Man, I love when Thor is captured and he wakes up and he's in the chair and it's like the theme park amusement ride with the Willy Wonka song and it's like welcome to Sakaar.
It's a straight up homage to Willy Wonka.
Yeah, and then it even has like the
homage.
It's got the same
homage.
Homage?
Homage.
Did you say homage?
I don't like it.
I think that's the Americanization.
Maybe they say Kia, the Kia vehicle that like SUV, the Kia Sportage. The Americans call it a Sportage.
Ew. No.
I mean, I laugh at that even though that's the same principle I used to say homage.
But so he's in the chair and then there's all this stuff happening and I just love when it goes scary, just like in Willy Wonka and it's the red lights and it's like, and it does a hard cut to him in the middle of the room still screaming. You're like,
that part was just an exposition dump, info dump, but it totally worked. It was fine.
Yeah, can I just say also that scene, they have that Jeff Goldblum, the Grandmaster, and Valkyrie and Topaz has that little exchange, and then he's like, I want to get closer. Let's take a look at the merchandise. And then there's this like kind of slow shot where he kind of wheels his chair forward, and then there's like silence where he just like looks at it, he's like, pay this woman. He doesn't even say anything about it. He just like needed to wheel forward a little bit to get a closer look at Thor, and then that's it. Like that's his criteria.
Yeah, I think that all the Sakaar bits, I think you already said it, James, are the best bits in the movie. And if the whole movie was that good, it would be the best MCU for sure.
You know what's another great element of the comedy is it's almost like it's such deep characterization that it doesn't feel like explicit comedy, but I feel myself laughing. Example here is when Thor is telling a story from childhood about him and Loki, and he's the snake, and Loki turned into a snake or something. He's like, I picked up a snake
because I love snakes
and I wanted to admire it, and like that is just he's not trying to be funny, but it's so funny because it's on brand for Thor.
You mean Thor isn't trying to be funny? Yeah.
Who wants to pick up a snake to admire it? Who uses the word admire? Like it's just funny.
He says Loki turns into a snake and you think that it's like he's gonna bite him or something, but he's like, and I love snakes, so I picked it up. Also, the beginning of that scene when like I love the recurring motif of like Loki not being there. So like Loki or Thor throws things at him to make sure that he's there.
Yeah.
And it happens 3 times, I think. The
3
first time
times.
he shows up in the prison and Thor's like, you're not actually here. I
The
knew
rocks
it.
go through him.
And then when Valkyrie captures Loki, he walks in and throws it and it bounces off his head and he's like, ow.
It's
And
like
he's
a
had to make
giant
sure.
vase or something. It's like bonk.
And then lastly, when they're on the ship together and they're having this like moment, Thor throws it again and he catches it. It's like you can't ask for better stuff in this movie. It's like
great.
it's like the culmination of that whole motif.
Yeah,
Great.
because it's a rule of 3 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also a progression.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm not here at all. I'm here, but there's conflict. I'm
Yeah.
here and there's togetherness.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Taika Waititi, I think he might be a genius.
I would not debate that at all.
But this is what I'm kind of scared for him, is that, geniuses, he's going to peak at some point and then he's going to like make some mistakes or something.
I wouldn't actually exactly credit that last thing we're talking about, the throwing thing, to him necessarily. I think there's probably like a number of people working on it.
sure.
And you
Well,
never
he didn't
know.
write it. He didn't write this movie.
Yeah,
Right.
like that's probably like
A number of those-
That's like a revision number 9 kind of thing. Like, oh, we should put
Yeah.
this in.
Absolutely. All of these Marvel movies are made by, whoever
Teams.
the director is and all these people, but then the script is mostly written by Marvel committee. But as we've seen, or as you said, 80% of this is ad lib or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's got to be these moments where Marvel
Yeah.
committee, Disney committee was like, we have to have this element because
Yeah.
that'll make for a good movie.
There's someone in the room that used to work at Pixar.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I think this is one of the most rewatchable Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like in 5 years I'll still want to come back to this.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas like even like I love Winter Soldier, but it's like it's not one I want to rewatch constantly. It's like
Right.
I'll watch it like once every 2 years or whatever and be like,
I think it's also really accessible in terms of all of the random Marvel stuff going on. I feel like with a lot of the other Marvel movies, you can watch it and it makes reference to some other movie or something that happened somewhere else. And
There are references here, but you kind of get them.
Yeah.
Like when, like even if you haven't seen it, you're like, you can infer what happened. One of the best examples was during the Hulk fight in the stadium, and it goes to like the booth above where Loki is. It was when Thor's getting like ragdolled around by the Hulk, getting smashed on the ground. It cuts to Loki. He stands up, leaves his seat, goes, "That's how it feels." And you're like, oh, I guess he got smashed in another movie.
yeah, it's a great moment. Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that like they do have these references to other movies, but they kind of do a better job of kind of explaining why that's important and what happened.
Or just
really.
making it intuitive.
My only big gripe with this movie, and it's not even a big gripe, is if Loki's been on that planet for weeks, how did he not notice all the Hulk stuff? There's like people walking through the streets with Hulk signs. There's literally a giant Hulk face on the Grandmaster's tower.
Yeah.
How is he like, I've never seen him. Like, this is the first time I've seen the Hulk since I've been here for weeks.
I think that's definitely a plot hole for sure. But I think I could also explain it away if I'm a huge Marvel fan and using blinders, rose-colored glasses on my eyes, to be like, maybe Loki was so intently focused on like currying favor or something,
fair.
or like
That's
keeping his
fair.
head down that he didn't really
It
notice
just
that
doesn't
stuff.
really matter. It's just a movie.
It doesn't matter.
It's
okay?
a blender, but whatever.
Yeah, who
What are the
cares?
other faces on that building?
I was trying to tell. I almost wanted to go back and
There
like
are
look.
probably references to like
something.
Oh, I got it.
Marvel.
The Hulk, Ares, Man Thing, Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, is Beta Ray Bill in
That's
there?
cool.
Apparently.
I didn't see a donkey face, but
Bojack Thorson. Even though I don't really like the actiony bits in this movie so much, just because, like, I don't know, all the hella stuff just doesn't really vibe with me. Definitely the best moment and shot in this movie is on the bridge when Immigrant Song starts playing and Thor's flying through the air and he does that lightning bolt onto like that. It really reminded me of a
Pile.
shot from 300 actually for some
Yeah.
reason.
right.
Well, it's because they're like piling on top of each other.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kinda like
that
one
was
guy.
sick.
It's such a good moment. And they kind of do that Renaissance painting, like the perspective that you're kind of an observer looking at it.
Yeah.
A couple times, like when the Valkyrie's doing her flashback.
yes.
I wanted to bring that up.
I was gonna say that is
so gorgeous.
second best shot for sure.
That's the Last Jedi lightspeed ramming shot of this movie.
I
It's
don't
so
understand what you mean.
What like in the Last Jedi?
I know
when-
what that is, yeah.
Yeah, and it
But
just kind of makes you go like, whoa! It's like
Okay,
visually a feast.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I just love the way they shot it. It was so smart. So they were doing 900 frame slow mo, But then they had 200 strobe lights all around to do that, like kind of the light shifting really fast. Because like,
is that how they filmed it?
yeah, normally you would do slow mo.
So
and
the
just,
action is slow mo, but then the shadows and lights moving over.
that's
the
real.
characters
Yeah.
are-
So there's CG definitely in the background.
There's no CG.
It's all
they got real winged horses.
But no, the lighting, because
Pegasus.
I just assumed that they shot flat lighting and then did it in post. But no, they were doing strobe lights that were moving 200 times a second or whatever, and that's why it still looks smooth. And it just has this such powerful effect of like when they're going through the air, and like it's such a cool little sequence in a movie that like it has great style. The set design and all that's good, but like most of the filming is really simple.
For
but
sure.
that in particular, I was like, this is sick.
Like I thought the production design in this movie was great. I
Yeah.
think Sakara had a
amazing.
really distinctive visual style, but at the same time, like you said, the filming style itself is pretty normal. So I think, I like took a step back because I was like, whoa, this is like this beautiful Renaissance style kind of aside in this fun, crazy action romp, and it just like, I don't know, it made me like introspective. I was like, oh man, she experienced trauma.
What am I doing with my life?
She's the lone survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has like some personal beef with Hela. Like I feel like that accomplished so much. It's great.
It's great.
One hokey thing, going way back to Scourge, when he's like on that evacuation vessel and he decides now's my time to rise up and save some people. How is he able to be on that dang vessel just with a cloak on? Like Asgard's basically a small town. You're saying nobody noticed that the guy sitting beside them was like the one traitor in the whole city?
Yeah.
You're like, come on, he's just like has a hood on.
Yeah, that's
I
definitely
mean, people
not
are panicked.
believable.
They're not really checking who's coming on and
He's
not.
like the one guy wearing full armor and then a cloak on top of it.
And has two
There's no-
M16s.
Then he goes out with his M16s that never run out of ammo, and when they do run out of ammo, like way later, and when he drops them, he then headbutts one of those undead soldiers with his bald head. He headbutts this soldier who has a like iron helmet on, and he just like boom, no blood on his forehead or anything. It's like,
Oh my God.
That's the moment in the
He's
movie.
an Asgardian.
You know when I talk about how my wife thinks these movies are like hokey kid shit, that is a perfect example. It's the epitome. That like 15 seconds is like, that's why she won't watch these movies.
Yeah. I mean, that scene with him with the cloak on the ship is inexcusable. But you know, again, I'm not too. It doesn't bother me that much because I'm like, it's the rest of the movie's so good.
I've always loved in Thor the costumes, like their armor, the Asgard stuff. It just looks so awesome.
Yeah, some of the shots too. I think they did a really good job elevating the design of Asgard in this movie. Like the one shot when they're coming back and it's a wide shot and there's like the water pouring out over the whole plateau. It's gorgeous. It looks so good.
Really reminds me of the Return of the King.
Totally.
And that's sorry.
No, just even like the space travel stuff. Like they've had the kind of the Bifrost Bridge and stuff before, but they ramp up the color and the intensity so much, and it just looks so cool. Every time they're space traveling through a wormhole, I'm like, this looks really cool.
Do you think that has to do with Doctor Strange being done before this?
Maybe.
They have some of the same people. That was really psychedelic and cosmic.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
You mentioned Return of the King, and one of my other favorite things about the Thor franchise, even before this movie, but like this movie kind of like really made it hit home, was the combination of crazy Marvel sci-fi, wacky universe spanning adventure and like intimate Lord of the Rings fantasy style journey. You know, like especially Heimdall, like hiding with the people in the mountains and like escaping and then going down to the Bifrost. I was like, this is so Helm's Deep, like so Two Towers, the journey to Helm's Deep. And I was like, I love that kind of like epicness. He's there's another scene where Thor's on Sakaar and you know there's all these crazy jokey things happening. There's laser guns, blah blah blah, and then he's like, "Oh, Heimdall, let me see what you see," or whatever. And then Heimdall brings him in, and he has this more intimate moment, and it's like real and personal about like what's happening to the Asgardian people, and it's very Lord of the Rings, kind of like hiding from the orcs type of thing. And I love it.
The Thor movies are uniquely positioned to have that juxtaposition of fantasy and sci-fi. That's really cool. And the Heimdall thing is a great example of what you're talking about earlier, where every like side character feels like they're the star of their own movie.
Yes. Yeah. Man, every time you see Heimdall on screen, you like want more of him.
Totally. I think one thing I wish this movie did a little more in the fantasy realm is put more importance on the Bifrost sword, because like it's important. Hela needs it to conquest, but I think they could have done something where it's like it's got power or something, and like at the end, like Heimdall either has to die or something, and Loki gets a hold of it, and he has an epic fight scene with the Bifrost sword, and they could have done like a more of an elevation of that sword instead of it just being like MacGuffin for chasing them.
This actually reminds me of another weird question I had. If Hela gets her power from Asgard, but Asgard isn't a place, it's a people.
Yeah.
then
I looked this up.
What's up with that?
So this is very confusing because they say that Hela gets her power from Asgard itself, and the justification for that is that Hela believes her power comes from Asgard, and so that is kind of what it is.
It's a big placebo.
Yeah, no.
I'm actually not more powerful here. I just believe myself.
Here's the thing with these Marvel, all these crazy magical powers and stuff, right? Is that Thor, we learn that, initially we think that he gets his power from the hammer, and then we learn that, the hammer was just a focal point for your power. That power is in you. And so, there's various reasonings for why different, Asgardians in particular, the, royalty of Asgard, who are, gods, why they have certain powers and where they get them from. And I think what happens eventually, because things get so convoluted with all the lore, they end up just being all right, we're going to justify this somehow. So the way that they justified this, from what I can see in my research, is that Hela believed that her power came from Asgard because she was so focused on Asgard and expanding its borders and all that and protecting it, that when you destroy Asgard, it kind of gets rid of her need or her reason for being and all that stuff. I mean, all of this is tied together.
It doesn't even destroy her. I think it's that the fight with that monster smashes her. It's not that she loses her power. It's that now there's this ultimate eternal being that will destroy her.
It's also this the prophetic nature of Ragnarok will destroy Asgard, and she's kind of part of Asgard in that way, especially when she's right there getting sliced by the sword.
And I hope that they bring her back. I was they don't really show the dead body, and there's a pretty epic sword strike that takes her down and explodes the planet, but she could still be.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that of course she could. Anybody, especially Asgardians, they survived. Thor's been on a ship that's blown up multiple times or whatever. He's just fine. Travels through space, lands on a planet, it's fine. Yeah, so I'm sure they could bring her back if they really wanted to.
I kind of don't want it.
I don't want them to.
Half an hour ago, we were they should have multi-movie villains, and I guess she could be one of them. And she's a great actor. Yeah. Obviously, she slays in Lord of the Rings and everything. She's so epic and theatery.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about casting. She's perfect. They're we basically want an evil Galadriel. Yeah. Get her.
I don't know if she's maybe perfect for this role. This role's not perfect for her. You know what I mean? She's the best person they could have got for this, but they should have just made the role better to use her more.
She should have been less physical. She should have been more her power should have been more
ethereal.
Ethereal. Someone corrected
us. Because you mix up with otherworldly.
Yeah. And I think that would be more powerful. In the same way that Yoda doing flips is stupid, she shouldn't be
No, she should have. When she had to take on that whole army, she should have just shot out one knife per soldier and killed them all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
I was totally whoa, I didn't know that Kate Blanchett was in that good of shape. Damn, she must cycle.
How old is she?
She cycles for sure.
She cycles.
No, not steroids. I mean spin class.
I think this is a problem with Marvel movies in general. They cast these really renowned actors and give them kind of parts that, but it's kind of Marvel is sort of the fun. It's the playground of Hollywood. It's hey, you want to come, or not even a playground. It's drop-in basketball or something. It's you want to come for a game, you want to drop in real quick and play this character.
It's drop-in NBA basketball.
Yeah, exactly. It's if NBA had skirmishes.
I saw trivia that was to prepare for this movie, Kate Blanchett did capoeira, and I'm okay.
Did what?
Capoeira.
I don't know what that is.
It's a dancing Brazilian fighting style. Basically, in Brazil, martial arts was illegal for black people, so they learned a martial art that they disguised as dance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's
that's tricky. That's good.
She does literally nothing of that in this movie. I'm okay, cool.
Yeah, we just came up with a bunch of random choreography. What else is there?
Well, guys, I am legitimately excited to cover Infinity War.
Same.
Yeah.
4 weeks from now. That is my favorite Marvel movie for sure.
So
it was the one that I was okay, these are actually good. In fact, these are better than Star Wars.
It's true.
This movie's sick.
Yeah, well, it's better than sequel trilogy Star Wars for sure.
But that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But that's 4 weeks hence. What's happening next week?
4 weeks hence
is Tenet.
And what's the movie title backwards though?
Tenet.
It's Tenet. I'm really excited.
Yes.
Especially because we get to see it before
I'm still not
people.
confident it's coming out.
Yeah, really? It's next week.
No, it's coming out here.
I know, but is it going to?
I am wondering how many of our listeners are gonna listen to that podcast before seeing the movie, or if it's gonna have no listens until after it comes out in America.
When is it coming out in America?
September 7?
So if you're not going to watch it because you don't want it spoiled, send it to your enemy to spoil it to them.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh,
That's
God.
not right. It says August 26th.
That's here.
I said America.
America.
Google failed you.
This is America. Tenet comes out on September 1st.
September 3rd.
3rd.
Select theaters in the United States beginning September 3rd.
It's probably going to be like a rolling regional release, not like a global on-off switch.
Right.
I'm excited.
I know, we
Very
just go to a real
excited.
theater.
Movie.
See, but now this is the problem. Our expectations going to be set too high? People are like, this is like a return to form for Christopher Nolan in the vein of Inception.
Yeah.
He kind of like took a little step out to doing kind of more artsy movies with Dunkirk or whatever.
Dunkirk.
And now he's coming back to do another crowd-pleasing blockbuster.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it could be like all he's learned is like just into one awesome masterpiece. Like he's done
Stop, James.
He's
Yeah,
done the
can't
mega
wait.
franchises. He's done like the important thing his whole career. He's
James,
got to be like
no.
45. It could be
No.
so sad.
Your
I can see the hype.
expectations. Your expectations.
I can see it building on your
I haven't
face.
seen the trailer. Like I've
You
seen half of the trailer.
What? Why would you do that?
Because the second half of a trailer is always like, oh, now I've seen the whole fucking movie. Like a trailer over 90 seconds is like too
Yeah.
much. So I saw
That's so weird.
I saw enough to be like, I'm interested in this, and then I turn it off.
Actually, that's probably good.
Yes, teaser trailers.
If
Teaser
I'm-
trailers only. Except for in this case, the teaser trailer was like baffling. It was just like a guy standing by some glass, and I was like,
I think that's a good rule.
I don't think I have the self-control to play a trailer for a movie I'm super stoked about and then just pause it halfway.
I was like, yeah, I'm out. No. I do the same thing for like Star Wars and stuff. Like as soon as
I guess but I can see doing that if you're like, I'm not sure if I'm interested in this movie, so then you watch a trailer and then you do that. But like if I know that I'm super stoked for a movie, I'd like
the opposite. If I know I'm stoked for something, like I do not want to see a Dune trailer. I don't want to see it. I know
you already know what happens in Dune.
not the movie.
Bah.
It's different.
But
I don't want to see it, man. I want to see the teaser so I get the aesthetic of what it's going to look like,
Right.
and then that's enough. I don't want to see the extended trailers. And
like I want to know that there's dunes in it.
do they have enough sand?
I hate
That's it.
sand.
But like trailers are way too long, man. Like Invisible Man, I'm sitting in the theater. The Invisible Man trailer comes on. The first minute of that trailer, very intrigued, looks very cool. The last minute of that trailer, the twist was given away, and now
true.
I have no desire to see it.
Trailers now are like 2-3 minutes. I'm like, too long.
Way too long.
Give me a minute, maybe a minute and a half.
Teasers only.
The movies that are director strong usually have better trailers that are kind of more cryptic for that exact reason, where
Right.
like they get the power to not give it away. Whereas if it's a director who's less known, the studio's like, we have to give a bunch of information so people are excited to see it.
Like, yeah, I haven't seen the whole trailer for Tenet, but I'm sure there is no line in that trailer that goes like, we have a time machine. We have to go back to the year 1996. Like where they just tell you what the movie's about.
Yeah.
I don't know that
We'll
there's
find
a time
out.
machine in that movie.
Well, this is the most rambling end to a podcast ever, but we have to end it.
And
And
fade out.
what do we say? What do we say, James? I don't know what you say at the end.
See you next time.
Follow us on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, that whole stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. Tweet at us on Twitter at Carbal Critics or email us.
Don't tweet at us on Instagram
Don't do that.
or email
try.
us.
Slide into our DMs.
No.
Email us at carpoolcriticspodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. We'll be waiting. Just clicking refresh.
We reply to every single one.
Do we?
Some of us have conversations back and forth.
I've replied to a couple,
I've replied to
mostly
several.
James and David. But I have seen people email and bash me in an email, and then you guys reply and not defend me.
That is likely.
I guess I should check emails.
That's actually what happens every time.
All right.
All right, love you guys. See you soon.